Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the show. Just a brief one today. Top four has been confirmed. Manchester City, Arsenal, Newcastle and Manchester United all confirmed in the top four for next season. All confirmed for the Champions League. Massive. Manchester City was a cert. Arsenal at the start of the season, top four was the aim, but they managed to punch above their weight most of the season, challenging for the league for most of the season before capitulating in the title running, but they managed to clinch second place. Newcastle, fantastic. Since the investment from Saudi and since Eddie Howe has been at the wheel, Newcastle have been phenomenal. A steady rise. Not spending too crazy in the transfer window. Their marquee signing being Isaacs for around 60-70 million. Fantastic player. And now they're going to be in the Champions League. It's going to be very interesting to see how they invest in the summer and the sort of players they bring in and how they cope being in the Champions League and all the domestic competitions, including the Premier League. At Manchester United, Ten Hag's first season, getting them back into the Champions League and also winning a trophy. They also have another cup final, FA Cup, that I hope they get smashed by City by. But good debut season for Ten Hag, phenomenal manager, and it's going to be interesting to see the ins and outs at Manchester United. It's pretty clear the players that he doesn't want, and it'll be interesting to see the players that they're going to sign. Are they going to sign Harry Kane? He seems to be top of Ten Hag's priority list in terms of striker, and you can see why. Harry Kane is a 20 goal a season Premier League striker consistently. He scores a lot of goals. He's one of the best strikers in the world. Even playing for a shit Spurs team this season, he's still scored about 20, 26, 27 goals in the Premier League this season, which is phenomenal playing for that shit team Spurs. So imagine what he can do with a more expansive team like Manchester United and a more progressive coach like Eric Ten Hag. So it'll be interesting to see if Manchester United land their man. That Daniel Levy, he's a very stubborn negotiator, but what choice does he have? He either sells him now or he goes for free. That is if Kane doesn't sign a new contract. If he does sign a new contract, Kane is probably the stupidest, most unambitious footballer of all time. So yeah, listen, next season Manchester City are going to be the favourites again. They've got a phenomenal team. Pep will let go of players and he'll strengthen again. The core team is there. The rest of us in the top four, Arsenal, United, Newcastle, are all playing catch up to City. We're miles behind them. And it's going to be very interesting to see how we strengthen our teams to try and close that gap, because Manchester City are going to strengthen also. They're in the Champions League final. They're en route for a treble. Hopefully Inter Milan can stop that. So it's going to be very, very interesting. In terms of the other teams, the big teams that didn't get into the top four, you had Chelsea, that had a shocking season, their worst season in 20 years. But you'd like to think with Pochettino coming to the club that they will be back challenging for the top four next season. It can't get any worse than it has been this season. And who else that was a big team that missed out on the top four? Liverpool, they missed out on the top four, but you can already see that they've started the rebuild. 4 of their players have gone, 4 main players, Firmino, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Milner, Naby Keita, they have left the football club. So the rebuild has sort of already started with, Darwin Núñez and Gakpo coming in. Striking, the strikers are sorted, but they do need to rebuild in midfield and defence. So they'll be back again. And I do think they'll be the closest challengers to Manchester City rather than Arsenal, Newcastle and Manchester United. Liverpool are a top team. They have a top core group of players. And if they invest properly, which I'm sure they will challenge City for the Premier League next season. Jurgen Klopp is a phenomenal manager, one of the best managers in the world. Him and Klopp and Pep are the best managers in the league, so they will be back next season. So the top 4 race next season will be even more competitive, with 6 teams vying for that top 4 place. And then you have teams like Aston Villa, They have Unai Emery, who's a very, very good manager, one of the best managers in the world, and he will be back. To Villa do have money, so it'll be interesting to see if they'll be thinking about getting into the top four. That'll be the aim. That'll be the aim. But with Europa League football back at Villa Park next season, they might struggle playing on Thursday and playing on the weekend. But Unai Emery, he's a master in the European competition, so it'll be interesting to see how Villa strengthen and how they cope with next season's demands. You also have Brighton getting into the Europa League. De Zerbi doing a great job. Will Brighton hold on to their players like McAllister, like Caicedo, like Matoma? They've already started recruiting. Milner's close to signing a deal, so Brighton, they're already thinking ahead. I don't think Brighton will hit the heights they hit this season. I think that the schedule of Europa League and the Premier League will, they'll feel it the most. And I think Brighton will drop down probably a couple of places. That's what I see for them. De Zerbi's a good manager. I do think he's a little bit overrated, but he is a good manager. But the Thursday weekend schedule is quite difficult, and teams like Brighton would probably be better off just focusing on the Premier League and finishing as high up in that competition as possible like they did this season. So yeah, top four is secure. Liverpool missed out. Chelsea was shocking. But we have our top four: Manchester City, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Manchester United. In terms of the Champions League next season, will any of those teams challenge? At this precise moment in time, with the squads they have, United won't, Newcastle won't, Arsenal won't. So even to challenge on a European stage, they have to heavily invest, all those three teams, because the other teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, they're going to heavily invest. Bayern Munich are going to invest. Juventus, well, they're not in it with the 10-point deduction for their off-the-field stuff. But you would think Inter Milan will try and come back stronger. Napoli will try and come back stronger. The Italian teams are a little bit financially more constrained than the Premier League teams, but they know how to do business. They know how to get players on free transfers, on cheap transfers, and they know how to do that, and loans as well. So you think that the Italian teams will strengthen. So the Champions League is going to be very, very competitive. Real Madrid are going to be back, Barcelona are going to be back, Bayern Munich are going to be back. So we know that Manchester City are going to compete on all fronts again next season. But for teams like Arsenal, Newcastle, and Manchester United, for the sake of not making up numbers, they're going to need to invest heavily to be competitive in the Premier League and the Champions League. So it's going to be very interesting there. In terms of Arsenal need about 4 top world-class or close to world-class players if we are going to compete. I'm thinking about Caicedo and Declan Rice. I'm thinking about a Victor Osimhen or a Vlahovic up front, and I'm thinking about a right back of some kind to give Tomiyasu some competition. I think Ben White should go back to centre half, and we should get a more specialised right back. I think Tomiyasu should start on the right, and we should get a right back in to give him competition and push him. So those positions, and also left back if we lose Tierney. So Arsenal are looking at about 5 top players. Like a João Cancelo on the left would be phenomenal, and that's the sort of profile of player that Arsenal need in order to challenge for the Premier League, try to again get into the top 4 again, and put in a decent campaign in Europe. Alright guys, so that's the end of this video. I'll be back again next week on Monday. So have a blessed bank holiday weekend. Have some fun, enjoy it. The weather's great. Please leave a comment, smash the like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you very soon for the next one. Peace.